All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rod Sports Broadcasting, and we are bringing you the very first of many Rudd Sports Broadcasting podcasts coming you this evening. We are getting this one done before the um, the NFL or NFC championships and AFC championship games happen this weekend. Looking at the uh, conference championship games, that's what we're going to look at today. We're also going to take a look at the NHL All Star game, what the rosters look like, maybe some snubs. But joining me on our podcast is Caleb Rutherford coming to us from St. Bonaventure University. Caleb, over to you.
Hey, I am extremely excited to get the podcast started. It's been in the planning phase for a second, so finally glad to get this thing up and rolling, and definitely excited to talk about the NFL, even if it is gonna make me relive a few bad memories. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we won't bring up Scott Norwood or, you know, Tyler Bass.
I've been
All right.
hearing wide right for a while, so it's not
Yeah.
nothing's gonna change now. They're just gonna say, hey, you know that wide right we've been telling you for the past 20 years? Well, now we have a new one to tell you. So
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so Caleb, look, and for the folks at home that are watching, so we're going to talk a little bit, like I said, about the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game. The AFC Championship game, Caleb being the Buffalo Bills fan and an AFC follower, I'm going to let him kick over on the AFC side here in just a second, and I'm going to go ahead and worry about the NFC side as I'm a Vikings fan by heart. Although there's a part of me that bleeds purple here in Baltimore as well. So, but Caleb, I'm going to kick it over to you here for a little review of what we think the AFC Championship game is going to look like.
yeah, so I do think that this will be a good game. At least in the first half. And that's kind of where I'm at. Is I am believing that this will be a tied game after those first 30 minutes. But after that, I feel like Mahomes is going to take over that second half. I mean, 215 yards over that Bills defense is nothing to be ashamed to put down or way down. I believe that the middle of the I believe that middle linebacker set for the Ravens is a rushing middle linebacker, which is not something you see nowadays. When you look at the Niners, Fred Warner is a big one, best linebacker in the league, Fred Warner. But not many people are rushing. And I believe that when you have a tight end like Travis Kelce, I believe having a rushing linebacking set is not a very good um, is just not a very good set. And I feel like when it comes to that, when it does come to the second half of this game, I believe the Ravens will be bombarded by Patrick Mahomes passing the ball to Rashee Rice, MVS, and Travis Kelce. Still muted.
Sorry about that. I was on mute, guys. Hey, so anybody who's been following my live broadcasts of the Ashburn Extreme would know that I sometimes hit that mute button a little too early. Anyway, so I would ask you this. Um, when you look at the likes of Isaiah Likely and uh, Zay Flowers, OBJ is starting to come into his own over the last, 4 games of the regular season and last week in the divisional round. Um, who needs Mark Andrews, right? Also, you can running back by committee, but really Lamar Jackson, is he not a running back that can happen to throw the ball? I mean, uh, are there enough weapons on the KC defense to stop that level of offensive attack? And then conversely, is the Baltimore defense able to keep up with the Kelseys, the Pachecos, the Patty Mahomes, the Rices, the MDSs of the world?
So I have my stats in front of me right now, and Pacheco was able to rush for 97 yards um on the Bills defense. The Bills defense that has pretty much nullified running backs this year, and Isaiah Pacheco was able to just run through him like it was nothing. Likewise, the Ravens defense is a lot like the Bills coming to like rushing and everything in that rushing defense. The Bills and the Ravens have two of the best defenses in the league. I'll stand on that. I believe that they are the two best defenses in the league. And with what the Chiefs offense was able to do against the Bills, I feel like the Ravens do have a slightly better defense. But those injuries that were on the Bills side, they weren't present come when that game happened last week. It was a fairly healthy team. They didn't have Tre'Davious White or Matt Milano for the Bills, but I mean, that's still a very solid defense, and they were able to run and pass the ball at will. And I mean, likewise, the Chiefs defense, I mean, they held Allen passing. Allen had 186 yards through the air, 72 on the ground, leading the Bills in rushing yards. No one even crosses 75 yards, and they hold James Cook to 61. So if you're holding a player who's developed like James Cook to 61 yards and one of the best rushing quarterbacks to 72, I mean, I could see Jackson crossing the 100-yard plateau rushing, but I don't see him getting 200 yards passing at all. And I feel like they're going to have to rely on their ground game. And I feel like the Chiefs are going to be able to stop that if they focus on that ground game.
Okay. Well, that's fair. You know, so as we go into this, let's talk a little bit about what we think the outcome of this game is going to be. So, being that you are the AFC expert, I'm going to let you with your final score prediction for the AFC Championship game
Now,
this Sunday. At these guys are playing at 6:30 tonight. This Sunday.
uh,
No,
uh,
I'm sorry. This is the 3 o'clock game.
yes, the AFC Championship is a 3 o'clock game, and I think expert might be a stretch here. I did pick the Bills and the Texans to win last week, so that might be on me. Uh, so you might want to take this prediction with a grain of salt, but I believe a 28-17 Chiefs victory will ensue this week. I do believe that it will probably be a low scoring first half, and with two great offenses that we see, saying a low scoring first half is very surprising, but I feel like both of these teams are going to be focusing in practice defensively this week. I feel like both are going to want to go out and set the tempo, not with offense, but with stopping the other team. Um, so I could see maybe like a 10-7 first half, either way, like either team. But 28-17 is my pick, and sadly, even as a Bills fan, I have to pick the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl.
Right, that's fair. That's fair. I get a vote as well, from my end. And without passion or prejudice, even though I am, admittedly, Baltimore has become my AFC team, since moving down this way back in 2016. Um, I just feel like the offensive power of Isaiah Flowers and Isaiah Likely, who was unlikely to have to step into that tight end role. But then when Mark Andrews went down for the season, has filled in very nicely. Uh, Not to mention, Rashad Bateman. You can never count him out. You can't count out OBJ. Um, in the backfield, yeah, you're running back by committee. Gus Edwards, he has his moment. Justice Hill has had flashes of power and speed. And there's this little guy that they picked up late in the season, hasn't had a whole lot of touches. His name's he used to play for the Vikings. Oh yeah, Dalvin Cook. So if it came down to it, I think he could also fill into that role, um, and take over if necessary, because that man is elusive. Long story short, I think the offensive power of the Baltimore Ravens will outdo the firepower of Mahomes and Maato. And I think that the final score of this game is going to be 31-21. And I say that because I think the defense is stronger too on the Baltimore Ravens side of the ball. So that's my prediction. Take it or leave it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and transition over to the NFC. So in the NFC, the 6:30 game on Sunday is 49ers will be hosting the upstart Detroit Lions. A Detroit Lions team that no one at the beginning of the season thought would be in the postseason, let alone playing for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl in Vegas. Um, I will tell you that the Detroit has been surprising. They have won games they shouldn't win. Honestly, I thought they should have lost last weekend, but they managed to pull it out against the Bucks. Granted, they were in their own house, and I know everybody's hoping for the Chiefs to win and the Lions to win, so you can have the Taylor Swift versus Eminem battle at midfield or something like that. I don't know. Swifties versus the Eminem crowd. I don't know, but sadly, as I already said, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be there unless they buy tickets to the Super Bowl, and that. I do believe the 49ers are going to come out on top. And I'm going to share with you why I believe that to be the case. Give me 1 second here as I try to share the screen. All right, here we are. Yeah. So that's just one reason why I think that CMC is I don't see an answer for him on the Detroit side of the ball. And then not to mention you've got Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, who has been everything but irrelevant this year for the 49ers behind center. I just You got Debo Samuel. I know there's questions about whether or not he'll play, but Debo Samuel is when you got Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk on the other side, and there's this little guy in the middle called George Kittle. Um, I, they're in the same boat as the Ravens. You've got weapons galore on that team. So I think the 49ers are going to come out. Um, you know, their defense. So with Nick Bosa and Chase Young on the line, I think Goff's going to have a hard day back there. I think Jameer Gibbs is going to have a hard time. So I think that I think the Niners come out on top in this one. And long story short, I'm giving this one to the Niners. I'm going to go 27-23. What are your thoughts, Caleb?
Um, yeah. I mean, there's no putting down what the Niners have accomplished this year. What Brock Purdy has done taking over for Jimmy G last year. There's no discrediting that. That is a hot team. That is a powerful team. But when you look at how I just feel like the Lions are underrated. That defense, Melifonwu is just a sack machine. Now that might sound weird, but he comes out and I mean, he had two sacks. 1.5 is what they credited him with, so two sacks last game against the Bucks, and I mean, I just feel like Melifonwu, he comes out of nowhere, and I don't care who you have back there. If you have a second-year guy like Purdy back there, who, despite his nickname of Mr. Irrelevant, just because he was drafted last, uh, I mean, Melifonwu comes out of nowhere like a missile, and he's just so fast, and he leads that Detroit defense. I just want to know how you're supposed to stop Aiden Hutchinson, Melifonwu, in that pass rush. I feel like Detroit could take this game. I feel like it's going to be a defensive battle, despite the offensive firepower of all four of these teams in the conference weekend have powerful offenses, and I believe both are going to be defensive games. That's probably a hot take. Honestly, give me the exact same score of 28-17, but I'm taking the Lions.
All right, that's fair. Uh, Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Uh, nah. So with that being said, so we have completely different takes because I'm going Ravens Niners. So if I go Ravens Niners in Vegas, and we'll talk more about the Super Bowl matchup once because we can have predictions, we can look at paper all day long, but at the end of the day, um, there's nothing to be said about the Super Bowl until we know which two teams are playing, and it's why they play the game, right? So there's no guarantees for anything just because on paper you're better. You still have to perform when you get on that on the gridiron. So um, I'm going to leave it at that. We will talk about the uh, Super Bowl on our next podcast, which will be coming up in a couple weeks once we get through these divisional rounds. But right now, what I'd like to do is transition over to the NHL All Star rosters. So, Caleb, if you had a chance to take a look at the rosters and what they look like.
I have, and I'm definitely going to bring them up now because if you ask me to name all 32 players selected so far, or however many there is right now, there's no way I'd be able to name them. So I'm still going to bring up the rosters.
Well, lucky for you, guess what I have on my screen?
Right?
And I will bring it up for you here in 1 second.
I will definitely thank you for that one.
All right. So we're going to look at this, and honestly, the truth is there are some big time snubs, in my opinion, when I look at these rosters. Give me a second while I share the screen.
I like the celebrity captains this year. That's what I'm focused on for the All-Star game.
So this is your roster for this year. So not a whole lot of major surprises, but uh, a couple of them that I feel like are left out that are a little bit of surprise as you take a look at it. So Clayton Keller, he's kind of a gimme, right? Um, from Minnesota, you're looking at Kirill Kaprizov. Now, the problem is Kirill Kaprizov is not the leading point getter on the Wild. The leading point getter is Matt Boldy, and I don't see his name on the list. So, do you think that's a snub, or do you think that's just because Boldy's still too young to have uh, the support of GMs and the fan base around the NHL?
I partially feel like it has to do with almost positioning. These teams are made to try and win still, and I feel like that could be part of it in the fact that maybe the voters, people who got these people in, just believe that Kirill is the better, like, maybe team player, but that Wild team, I could see Boldy making it. I could even see Brock Faber having been the one chosen.
That was going to be
Faber
my
has
next
been
choice.
phenomenal as a rookie and possible Calder winner. I mean that's one thing that sticks out to me is that battle for that Minnesota spot. I can see why Kirill got it. Kirill is an amazing player and has proven it over the past few years. And I believe Boldy will be an all-star next year if he continues at this rate. I believe Faber will be an all-star in the next few years if he continues at this rate. One thing that about these that I kind of want to look at is that Connor Bedard, Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, personally, I believe he is the only player on that team who even remotely deserves an all-star spot. You can come at me if you want if you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, but I'm a Minnesota Wild fan, so I'll stand by it. I believe Connor Bedard's the only person on that Chicago Blackhawks team who deserves a spot in the All-Star game. Do you have anyone of idea who can replace him due to his jaw surgery that he's suffered?
Well, the thing is, you want to look at a guy who's playing, so that has to play at the forward position, right? So, um, you start looking to guys like Mikko Rantanen from Colorado. Um, I mean, obviously, Colorado's already got a bunch of guys there with Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Alexander Georgiev, um, eh, and decidedly so. But um, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's a top 10 guy, a scorer right now, Mikko Rantanen. Why wouldn't he be the obvious replacement for the Western Conference? Um, that's just my opinion. There are plenty of other guys that could be there. I just feel like he's one of those guys that could probably be in the conversation. You also, it doesn't even have to be but if you have to pick a guy from Chicago, I don't know who you pick from Chicago because, as you said, Connor Bedard's been kind of the guy. Um, not that's not to say Chicago doesn't have other guys surrounding him, but without Bedard, Chicago's just not the same team. So I don't think but if Chicago's got to send somebody, do you start looking back to uh, sending somebody maybe not in the forward position, but somebody at the defensive position? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, if we're looking at Chicago, I mean, it's just such a small sample size to choose from. Radish would probably be my next pick. Um, if I'd have to choose. Um, but I mean that team is just it even with Bizarre, that Chicago team's kind of a dumpster fire. They're not as bad as San Jose's been this year, but it's hard to watch Chicago play hockey. It's just a Connor Bedard show, and
Well,
I can't really pick another person. Radish is the only other person who I think could. Taylor Hall's had a down year, but I guess if we're looking popularity-wise, Taylor Hall could get the
I
votes
was
to get
just
in.
gonna say that. I was just gonna say, so you've got guys like Tyler Johnson and Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno. He's a great left wing. I think he's a great player, but he's never been All Star material. He's been great, but he's not been an All Star guy. Um, yeah, I could see Taylor Reddish. What about Lucas Reichel? He hasn't had his best year, but he hasn't had his worst year. So if you've got to send somebody from Chicago because you got to fill the requirement to have somebody from every team, and Connor Bedard's not your guy because he's going to have surgery, I think you got to go with a guy, maybe a Donato, maybe a Taylor Hall, because Ryan, you got to remember Ryan Donato. That's a popularity contest, obviously, but he's probably the guy, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's the biggest thing is just trying to find that replacement will not be easy for the NHL. Um, One of the things that I do think is perfect about the All Star game this year, and you guys at home are just gonna have to listen to me because it doesn't say it on this, but I want to leave this up on the screen. We have your All Star captains are Austin Matthews with assistant captain Morgan Riley, uh, Connor McDavid with assistant captain Leon Draisaitl. Nathan McKinnon chose his assistant captain to be Cale Makar, and co-captains Jack and Quinn Hughes. I believe all five of those players are probably the five that needed to be captain. So if there's one thing that's I do believe is great about this is their picking of the captains. And I mean, it's going to be exciting to see the All Star draft this year to see who ends up on those four teams.
I think that'll be an interesting conversation to see how that's going to work. So, all right, biggest snubs. So I start looking around at like what are our biggest snubs that people who didn't the uh, make the All Star game that maybe should have. So Nylander made it in on the fan vote, right? So lucky for him because he was initially snubbed, but I don't think he should have needed I don't think he should have needed the fan vote to um, make it into the All Star game. So he was an initial snub of mine. But now that I see he's made it on the fan vote, which was just released today. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who's got 57 points through 39 games. He's top five guy in the league and wasn't voted in uh, primarily because he's got a guy on his team named Austin Matthews and he's a perennial All Star. So, um, you know, but looking at Vegas, Jack Eichel and only Jack Eichel. So I'm curious about this guy who tends to pipes for Vegas, who's not on this list at all, Aiden Hill. Um, Probably, in my opinion, I mean, you're talking about a guy with a 933 save percentage this year. What are your thoughts as to why he was not in the consideration for? I mean, you're a goaltender, so you know. So why is a guy like Aiden Hill not even in consideration? Not saying that Georgiev's not a great goaltender, but if I'm going out of the West, I'd rather have Hill than Georgiev, I think.
Uh, I do believe that he is definitely an All Star candidate, but I mean, just looking at this list here, out of the West, goaltender wise, I see Thatcher Demko, Connor Hellebuck, Georgiev. I'll count them, but they are just. Plus, you have Jake Ottinger, and I mean, I believe that the goaltending out of the West was pretty set by those players. I do believe Hill is better than Georgiev, but I can't see him being better than any of the other ones. And I mean, I guess if Georgiev made that list, then Hill probably should have. But if that was what they decided, I could see it. Georgia's had a pretty good year, and Hill's had a very good year. But any of those other goaltenders out of the West are they're just better than those are some of the best goaltenders in the league, and that's the whole point of the All-Star game. And when I think of good goaltenders, I'm thinking Jake Ottinger, Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko, and those are just the people who are coming to mind. Who come to mind, and you also have Cam Talbot, who has had just a phenomenal season, unbelievable from that Kings goaltender, Cam Talbot, former Minnesota Wild, former Oiler, former everything. But that's just it. Is that there's so many goaltenders out of the West that I just don't think there's room for all of them. The West has been a goaltending phenomenon this year. That's really my thoughts on that.
So I'm going to move on from the Western Conference in just a second, but I want to talk about one other team that I'm surprised doesn't have more guys there, and that's Dallas. Jake Ottinger, you mentioned he's the only guy from there, but that organization. I mean, one of the names that comes to mind for me is Jason Robertson, like not even voted to the All-Star game. Do you think there should be more Dallas players on that roster?
I 1000% agree with you. That was going to be if I didn't toss that back to you and I just decided to keep going, that was going to be the next thing I mentioned was Dallas. That's an all-star lineup in itself. That the Dallas Stars are.
Because you got Pavelski, you've got that whole group.
Yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, it's just, I mean, yes, Ottinger. If I'm picking one player from Dallas, I'm picking Jake Ottinger. But I didn't have to pick one player from Dallas. They didn't have to pick one player from Dallas. I have no clue how there's only one player from Dallas. I mean, I'm kind of like, I was kind of dumbfounded when I saw this list for the first time because, I mean, Jake Ottinger, yes, all-star goaltender, maybe the best goaltender in the West over the past few years, is just an amazing goaltender and deserves to be in the all-star game. But so does Robertson. So does, Pavelski's coming on his last few years. I believe he deserves to be there too. Heiskanen. That's just a really good lineup, top to bottom. And it's hard to believe that only one of them made it in.
Well, no disagreement there. Now I want to turn to the Eastern Conference for a second. So, okay. First of all, let's talk. Well, first of all, so you know that I don't hate the Washington Capitals unless they're playing Minnesota, but I love them most of the other time. But and I love a player like Tom Wilson. He's scrappy, but this is a guy who only scores, half a point per game, in the last 3 years. Um, Meanwhile, your TJ Oshis, your Evgeny Kuznetsovs, your Alex Ovechkins, your big name players are not to be seen on here. What do you think is causing that? Because I'm not to take anything away from Tom Wilson. I love Tommy Wilson, with all my heart. But I feel like there are other candidates to come from the Capitals team than that. I would have put, you know, I don't know. You could have put Carlson in there for all I care.
I think on a season by season basis, Dylan Strome comes to mind this season for the Capitals.
Yep.
I mean, not a name too many people might know, but Dylan Strome has. I believe Tom Wilson could end up. Tom Wilson, I believe, has 43 points this season so far. Tom Wilson is a good all-star pick. Ovechkin, we all know, would have been the pick, except for he said no to the All-Star game the past 4 years. So I think they
He
just
did.
decided to leave him off. Just not even try this year, even if you wanted to go. And I mean, just the Capitals in themselves just haven't been the same team this year. Ovechkin's fallen. Kuznetsov is fallen. Carlson's declined. It's just kind of like that team is just old and that team is just regressing. Tom Wilson's kind of one of the youngest players on that team, and with him being, I believe, like 30, 28, 29 years old, saying he's one of the youngest guys on that team is kind of crazy. That Capitals team is just a really old team. It's
I
expected
don't
that they're
think
going
they're
to
that old.
decline.
Yeah.
and, um,
I mean,
and
you still have young guys like Nick Dowd. Well, Nick Dowd's probably not that young anymore. But you got Anthony Mantha, you got Connor McMichael. You've got talent that's younger than that, and I just feel like there are better options than having a Tom Wilson in there. Tom Wilson gets in there because when he's gonna fight, he's gonna fight. But right now he can't fight because he got a bubble on his face every game. So I don't know if you saw the game the other night against Minnesota, in which they lost. He was gonna go fight and then realized he had a bubble on his face, and he was like, "Ah, not gonna fight because I got a bubble on my face." So, um, but and don't get me wrong, because I do like Tom Wilson. I just don't think he's the right guy that should be um, I just don't think he's the guy that should be representing the Washington Capitals this year in but in the All-Star game. But I guess I don't get a vote on that, right? So it is what it is. Turning to Detroit, so uh, I'm a little surprised that we don't see a Myatt Sider or
Moritz
any of
Seider.
those guys. Moritz Sider, excuse me. Um, yeah, you know who I meant. Uh, I'm surprised that we don't see them on we don't see more players like that on from Detroit on there because Detroit's been having a pretty good year. Don't get me wrong, Alex DeBrink is a great player, but you know Robbie Fabry's been playing well. You Patty Kane, not so much, but you know, he's a perennial all-star too. What do you think?
um,
Should there be more guys from the Red Wings on this team?
so you and me are on a wavelength when it comes to All-Star games, because just like I said, that if I continued talking last time, I would have gone to the Dallas Stars. If I kept talking this time, I would have gone to the Detroit Red Wings. Lucas Schraman, Moritz Seider, Vinny Huso has had a great season. It is impossible to look at that Red Wings lineup and pull one All Star. It's impossible to look at the Dallas Stars lineup and only pull one All Star too. But they got five All Stars from the Vancouver Canucks somehow out of that, and well, I mean,
Probably from Toronto,
I'm
but we
pretty
know.
sure you didn't need five from Vancouver. I mean, I get Vancouver's one of the best teams in the league this season, but I don't believe they deserve five. And I believe that teams like Detroit and Dallas deserve more because it's hard to look at that lineup. Robbie Fabry's been a defensive menace this season, blocking shots like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And just that entire team, they're producing, they're winning games. They're not the Detroit Red Wings over the past 10 years that we've seen. And I mean, I feel like the league might still be treating them like they are. That Red Wings team's going to make it to the playoffs. And you're looking at you're looking at two playoff teams that only have one All-Star. That's not something you usually see, and it's hard to believe that it is happening.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing. See, so I think I do think that Detroit had Detroit definitely got snubbed because if I had to pick one guy from Detroit, probably I'm honestly I'm probably going with a David Perron or a Dylan Larkin, but probably Larkin because I mean the man can flat out play.
And what's even
Thoughts?
better is that shows you how good that lineup is because those are two of the biggest names on that team, and those were two names I didn't say. Uh, and I mean, those are another two great options, and it's hard. I mean, from where I am, it's hard to believe that there's only one player from Detroit, and that is a team that I believe has gotten stubbed the most because I believe 90% of that team could be playing come February, and only one of them is going to be.
Oh, that's a true statement. So, but with that, I am going to, I think the All Star game is going to be a great game. There'll be more discussion about the All Star game before our next podcast here. Um, because that All Star game will take place on Saturday, February 3rd, 3 p.m. So we got a couple weeks. We should hopefully have another podcast out by then. We can talk a little more about it. By then, we'll know who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. So that should be an exciting conversation between here on Red Sports Broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you tuning in to Rud Sports Broadcasting this weekend, and you know, I hope that we can bring more of what interests you. So please go ahead into the caption, into the comments down below, and give us your feedback. What would you like us to talk about? We will talk about everything. This is Rud Sports Broadcasting. It's not focused on football. It's not focused on uh, hockey. It's not focused just on basketball or baseball or any other sport. I don't care if you want us to talk about curling. We will. Um, we will talk about any sport because we are all inclusive and we do not discriminate against sports. All right. We appreciate your time, Caleb. Good talking to you, and we'll see you next week on Broad Sports Broadcasting Podcast.
Bye.